Books we read. Books we read.
La 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 la.
Keen on participating? Fill out the form. The link is in the description below.
Books we read. Books we read.
La 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 la.
Welcome to Between the Pages. Today we're joined by Geetanjali Auntie, a seasoned professional with over 17 years of experience in the field of HR. In addition to her corporate endeavors, she is the driving force behind Kathashala, an initiative dedicated to nurturing creativity inside kids with the art of storytelling. Let's welcome Geetanjali Auntie. Hello Geetanjali Auntie, welcome to Between the Pages. How are you?
Doing well, beta. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So, can you introduce yourself?
Right. So, by profession, I've been an HR professional for over 17 years. And apart from that, I started with an initiative which is called Kathashala, wherein we teach, not teach, basically, we try to inculcate the creative mindset in children through storytelling. So through that, they can learn a lot of values, they will reflect and do a lot of things. So that is one. Then I'm also a certified parent coach, wherein I help parents with certain issues that they do with.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So what book are you going to talk about today?
So today I'm going to talk about a very interesting book, which is Palace of Illusion by Chitra, Banerjee. And it's about a book, basically the story of Mahabharata, seen from the lens of Draupadi.
All right. And I'm curious about how you found out about this book.
Right. So, see, as a child, I had heard about Mahabharata, basically through the serial that used to come on the national channel by Mr. B.R. Chopra. And so whatever that I know about Mahabharata was completely through those series. And so apparently what happened few years back, I had a interaction with somebody wherein there were certain facts about Mahabharata that I came to know, which I wasn't aware of. So when I said that, okay, did that really happen in Mahabharata? So that they said yes, and that person recommended me this particular book. And after I read this book, it was completely an eye-opener for me, because generally what we see or what we would have seen, generally people of my age would have seen in their childhood, is looking at Mahabharata and all the characters from one angle. And when you read this book, you realize the situation from a different perspective. So everybody in a situation may look at something, but from a different perspective. So that was very important, and a lot of beautiful stories and learnings from the book.
I see. So were there particular moments in Draupadi's journey that you found powerful or moving?
Yes, there were a lot of moments. So Draupadi, if I talk about, she was born from fire. And so basically her father, King Drupad, wanted to take revenge from Dronacharya. So he said that, what do? I want a son who can take revenge from Dronacharya.
I'm so sorry.
So he did a yagya, and from that yagya, he asked for a son. And he got that. So from the fire, it is believed from the fire, the sun appeared. And when the sun appeared, a girl also appeared. And Drupad was taken aback that, I just wanted a son and I've got what is this? Why is there a girl along with the child? So she was something initially, like what we see, she was not so much welcomed in the family, because the father's intent was very specific. I want somebody who can take a revenge, and ideally it's a man with, somebody with a lot of physical strength can take that revenge. So that was the entire this thing. So she wasn't welcomed in the family. She would always, and by the way, that book also says that she was not fair. Generally, what we see in our, what we see on our soaps aired on the channels and everything, we see like she's very glamorous, but she was very beautiful, but she was dark complexion. So she would always have that anxiety in her mind, saying, how do people perceive me? I'm black, right? She had those notions. And how Shri Krishna, who was her childhood friend, would encourage her. Second, she was form of Shakti. So generally, woman is perceived, especially in our country, is perceived somebody who's very soft, very kind-hearted, can't take harsh decisions, or is not courageous. So with Draupadi, if you look at her entire incidents that has been mentioned, she would compete with her brother. Okay, she was very courageous, as in she could have put her forward her thoughts very very, she could articulate and put it forward to others. So that way she's also known as strength. And so that's wherein I think lot of learnings from Draupadi and her life.
Were there any instances that you disagreed with Draupadi's choices or perspectives?
Not really. I would not say I disagree, because when I read that book, I realized that everyone can have a different perspective. That could be right from one perspective or from one individual, or could be wrong from another individual. So it doesn't matter, because see, what we look at something which is right or wrong is basically our own preconceived notions that we have in our mind. So there was nothing wrong. I think whatever she did it from her own personal judgment, from her experience, or what she believed was right. So due respect to her, I think whatever she would have done, she would have taken the best decision, at least as per her at that point of time.
All right. Were there any traditions depicted in the book that you found interesting?
I think not tradition as such, not as such, but there's one thing which I would like to talk about is it is perceived, or it was believed, that in childhood it was only men who were so basically the prince were taught art of worship.
Hmm.
And so that's exactly what used to happen with her and her brother. So two things: he was being taught the art of worship, as in how to have a physical fight, and but she was better than her brother. She would look at how the teacher is teaching the brother, and she would learn that by seeing, and she would practice with her brother. So she did against the tradition. Second, whenever the teachers would teach him, what we say, Ved or Shastras to her brother, she would actually also sit and listen. And generally, what happens when a teacher is teaching, not everybody has the courage to ask the question, but she would counter question also.
Okay.
So that tradition was very beautiful. How children were taught in the olden days, everything, every perspective. But yet, at that point of time, probably, the girl child was believed to be taking care of a large kingdom, or to be the future queen of another kingdom. So she was not taught, but Draupadi was very courageous. She wanted to learn. So every prominent place she will ensure that she is there, so that she learns from what's happening around.
That's interesting. So the book incorporates mythical elements and fantasy. How did these elements contribute to the enjoyment of the story?
So first of all, you use the word mythical, okay, which is derived from the word myth. All right, Mahabharata and Ramayana, these two, what we read, it is actually, some people tag it as mythology, something related to myth, but it is not myth, it is itihas. Okay, something which actually happened. So, sorry, if you could repeat your question, what was that? Mythical and
Fantasy, kind of.
right. So, I think everything in that story teaches us a lot of things. Every important thing that you learn is absolutely very, very important. Be it from the childhood of Kauravas, Pandavas, Draupadi, her brother Krishna, or you talk about the war, right? And you know that in the battle, so many lakhs of people they died. So what do we learn from each element is the most critical thing, because generally what is perceived it is right and wrong. Of course there's a concept of saying the right, yes, the dharma, but everything there's a learning. And by the way, that book clearly tells that before Pandavas were entering into this war, or even for that matter Draupadi, she herself knew that there's going to be a huge price that she needs to pay. She didn't know what that price was. Of course, she lost all her sons, the entire family, a lot of people. She didn't know, but because she was in that fire of revenge, she agreed that, and she supported her husbands to get into the state of war. So not exactly fantasy, but I think what exactly happened, certain things that was very interesting.
I see. Chitra Banerjee is known for her descriptive and lyrical prose. How does the author's writing style contribute to the overall enjoyment of it?
I think that was really, really beautiful because, see, I generally don't read so many books. I generally am a person who would listen to audiobooks. Very rarely I would, read all these books because generally I prefer listening and enjoying something. So I never thought that I would be in a position to complete that book in a short span of time. But the way she wrote, as in after every chapter would end, I was very curious to know that what would happen next. What would happen next? Because it was something a very different perspective that she would present in a very beautiful manner. So I think everything that she did, it really made the reader very curious what's going to happen next. Though I know what happened in the series of Mahabharata, right? But what's still going to happen from a Draupadi's view is something I was looking forward to.
That makes me want to read the book.
Sure, you can read that.
So, in what ways do you think the challenges faced by Draupadi in the novel are still relevant to women today?
Okay, so I'll talk about something which is a very beautiful incident narrated in that story. Is like I mentioned, she was really dark because she was born out from the fire. So her father had lot of queens, and lot of queens had lot of daughters also, other queens, and she was very shy because she would feel inferior because of her color, right? And that still holds true, right? We have so many ads, commercial ads, products in the market saying that you apply this and you become fair, right? So during that entire thing, she would very shy in family occasions or traditions. She couldn't gel well with others, the other family members, okay, because of the fact that she would feel a little low about herself. And exactly that what happens right now. So there's a very beautiful interaction between Krishna and Draupadi, wherein Draupadi says, she shares about what she feels. So that point of time, Krishna tells her, the way that you feel about yourself is what others will also perceive you as. And so when she understands what he's trying to say. So immediately the next day, or very soon after she had this conversation with Krishna, there was Mahashivratri, right? So after that Mahashivratri came, she actually dressed, and it is believed that King Drupad had one of his queens. She was very beautiful. So Draupadi, when she was going towards the temple along with the rest of the family, she saw the queen. She got nervous for one moment, and the second moment she realized that what Krishna had said, right? That point of time, she felt, she could feel that entire confidence flowing in the body, in the entire, beat, even the mental body as well. And then she walked with complete grace, and it is believed when she was walking, everybody was astonished and they started looking at her. And that's from that time, I think there was some song also that was made on her name at that point of time. So she was known for her beauty, while initially she perceived that I'm not fair, so I'm ugly, right? So yes, physical attributes do okay, matter in the sense that they are there for us, okay. But if we are not strong from within, if we don't believe good about ourselves, things will not change for us.
That's beautiful. Are there any other books that you would recommend to those who enjoyed this book?
Okay, so if they have already read this thing, I can talk about one book which mostly people would have read in their childhood, which is Panchtantra. Right? Now, Panchtantra is perceived by most a book which is uh, meant for children. Okay, but if you look at the original story on creation of Panchtantra, it was written by Acharya Vishnu Sharma, who was wanting to teach three princes who had no interest in studies, right? And those princes had grown up, had not studied during their life, the entire life. They had to be taught, and they had to be taught different aspects and something which is also called Niti Shastra. You know what a king should know about different aspects. So Vishnu Sharma actually wrote Panchtantra. So what we see, most of the books which are there, okay, it is very colorful, it is very bright for children, but it is actually Niti Shastra, strategies for somebody to learn. So children, it lost it, of course, it lost its own, you know, the story of creation somewhere, but there's still a lot of people who read about it and understand strategies from that. And it's very powerful book. So I don't know in English which one is going to be there, but it's whatever are the learnings and everything, you have a basically a Sanskrit book. So in case somebody doesn't have that, they can go ahead and read about, you know, buy a Hindi version. I don't know what if there is something English version wherein you have the story, you have the logic, and you have got different learning. So not every story is a moral based this thing. Every incident that is there, you know, from the sun would rise, the birds would come, from that element towards the end of the element, there is a learning, there is something to learn from it. In fact, every story of our country you know, reflects something. So I would recommend somebody is really interested on this, you know, itihas, I'm sure they would read about Ramayana also. They can go with reading about Panchtantra, the actual Panchtantra, which has those sutras, or I can say those Sanskrit learning shlokas that they can also go ahead and do. The second thing which I have just started reading is this Ramayana Untraveled by Ami, I think Ami Granthi is what the author's name is. So even she is sharing a lot of different perspective. So the same story, what we know about Ramayana, how was it different? You know, different perspectives come in. So it's always good to understand different perspective, but I think you should have your own view on that. So those two books I can recommend.
Both of them sound very interesting.
Yes.
So we have a ritual in this podcast where every guest writes a question for the next guest. So I have a question for you from Muktesh. He's asking if you could visit any 3 places in the world, where would it be and why?
Okay. First of all, I would like to share that our country, you know, if we talk about Bharat, not India, traditionally it was called Bharat, was a country with lot of rich heritage and lot of things to learn from. And the map of the country that we see right now, it's shrunken, right, because of lot of reasons. So I would like to visit, because I would like to visit that original traditional Bharat, which was much larger. So basically, all neighboring countries, and maybe learn from what has been their heritage, what has been their culture that has been coming from a lot of generations. So that's what I would like to explore. Of course, exploring more of Bharat, because I don't think I've even done 10% of learning from my own land. But yes, if I have an opportunity of also moving out of the you know, the boundaries, then all the neighboring countries, yes.
Okay, and it's time for you to write a question.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on Between the Pages. I had a really great time talking books with you.
Thank you so much. Same here, and thank you so much once again for inviting me.
Time to close the book, but don't worry, the stories really never end. Until our next adventure together, remember to keep your imaginations fueled, your laughter contagious, and your bookmarks handy. Until next time, it's me, Anna Lilani, closing the BTP book for this week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
la 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 la